Welcome back to First Move. Morocco's government and volunteers are handing out desperately needed supplies after Friday's deadly earthquake. The race to deliver aid is especially critical to people living in remote villages, as Sam was saying earlier on the show. Officials say destroyed roads into those hard-hit regions are rendering their efforts to get aid to people more difficult. International aid coming in, with Morocco accepting support from UK, Spain, the UAE and Qatar. And joining us now is Ethan Schwartz, Communications Director for the humanitarian aid organisation IsraAID. His team is now in Marrakesh. Ethan, thank you so much for your time. I know you're incredibly busy. I believe you arrived there Sunday afternoon. Just give us a sense of what you've seen already and what your priorities are.
Sure. And thank you for having me and for sharing this. So you're right, we arrived yesterday afternoon into Marrakesh. In the sort of less than a day that we've been here, even inside the city in some of the older areas, you can see destruction, you can see people sleeping out on the streets. But the biggest needs and the biggest humanitarian crisis right now is outside the city in the mountain areas. And that's where we're trying to deliver aid. So IsraAID is a global non-governmental organization. We respond to emergencies as quickly as we can, and then we stay long term. Sort of to work together with local communities. So that's what we're doing here.
I mean, part of the challenge when you're talking about those outside of the city and up into the mountains is you're battling a couple of things, the elements, the fact that it's so hot out there, but also the terrain and then the blockage of certain roads. Have you worked out a way actually to get those supplies to the people? How easy is it even to achieve that at this stage?
So you're right that it's challenging, and we're basically having to take it kind of case by case, place by place. So as soon as I get off this call, we're actually getting in the car and driving up to a few mountain villages in the Al Hawaz region, which is just outside the city. And some roads are passable, some roads aren't. We're sort of seeing as it comes. And the main thing that we're doing is working together with local community organizations. So everything we do is being led by community groups, volunteer organizations, charities that are local to Morocco into the region. So we're following their lead and they're taking us where the needs are greatest. We think that's the best way.
So it's actually them that called you in, that called IsraAID in. And so I guess you're coordinating with them in terms of how you can help to provide essentials, shelter, water.
Exactly. So, and this is something that IsraAID does in every emergency response we do, whether it's an earthquake or a hurricane or a refugee crisis. We work with local organizations. We're always brought in by local community groups, because we think it's really crucial for humanitarian aid and solutions to be driven by the community. And that way they can kind of build a stronger, more resilient future after crisis. So we're working together to deliver blankets, tents, water filters that can serve households, hygiene items, toothpaste, soap, sanitary pads, all the essentials that you need, not just to survive, but to survive with dignity after a crisis.
What about medicines, Ethan, as well, for people that perhaps need those and have lost those too? Are you part of providing access to those, or at least getting those to people as well? It's always the shelter, the water, the basic things first, and then you start to worry about sort of healthcare too.
No, absolutely. And healthcare is something that a number of partner organizations here are working on. And we're assessing the situation in terms of healthcare and seeing whether it's something we can be involved in or not. It's something that we do in a lot of different countries around the world. And one of our main areas of expertise is healthcare and medication, and especially kind of the medical logistics and public health of getting medication to crisis-affected communities. So it's definitely a challenge, and it's also something that we're kind of letting local communities lead from the front in terms of what are the needs, what can we do, what can other partner organizations do, and how do we kind of bring the most aid to the people in the most need.
Ethan, I know it's difficult to assess, and you've been there less than a day so far, but are you short of anything? If people are watching and perhaps can provide, as you said, blankets, essentials, is there anything people can do to help?
Sure. So the most important thing actually is to support organizations that are working on the ground locally, whoever they are, as long as they're working on the ground locally. Because the best way to bring aid is actually to buy as much aid in the country as possible. That way, we're supporting the local economy, supporting affected communities, not shipping things around the world, which is logistically challenging and obviously has more carbon emissions, but actually trying to buy stuff in Morocco to bring to Moroccans. So the best thing to do is to try and find any organization working locally on the ground to support. You can always go to IsraAID.org if you want to find out more about us. And we welcome all donations and all partnerships that anyone wants to bring.
Yeah, it's such a great reminder. Support the local communities and the local businesses in this situation as best we can at the same time. Ethan, how long do you plan to be there? Do you have any sense of that at this moment?
Sure. So something we never set a time limit as soon as we enter a country after a crisis. And so sometimes we end up staying in countries for up to 10 years after an emergency to work long-term with communities. And sometimes we work for 3 months and at the end of 3 months we say, okay, we're leaving communities that are in a stronger, better place. So at the moment, we're not sure. We'll definitely be here for the next while. I would expect the next few months, but I couldn't put any kind of time limit at this point. So we'll see.
Ethan, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're incredibly busy. Huge thanks to you and the team too. You're certainly heroes going in there to help at this moment. Ethan Schwartz there, Communications Director for IsraAID. Good to have you with us. Stay safe, please. Now, for more information about how you can help victims of the Morocco earthquake, go to cnn.com/impact. All the information that you need is there. More First Move after the break.